Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of our Kontext Coffee Chat, where we're trying to give you a bit more context to your cup of coffee. Today, I have invited our Indonesian value chain to have a heart-to-heart, basically, across the value chain, because the last year or two have just been crazy and tumultuous on so many levels. So much going on in the world on an economic level, on a political level. This last year has been, I think, the year where half the world population went to the poll to elect new governments, which is absolutely crazy in terms of the ramifications that has for people living in different countries, electing those governments. And also how that will affect businesses overall. And then, armed conflicts in so many parts of the world, and just different struggles on different levels. And so we thought it would be a nice idea to sit down with real people in a real conversation, and just to give you a bit of an idea of what that means, what all of this meant over the last year or two. In the coffee world, and particularly in this value chain, which is the value chain for our Indonesian coffee that we're sourcing through this site up from the Netherlands, and in turn from Ontosroh, based in Indonesia, as the exporter, with the help of Yolan, who's the coordinator for the farmer group in Enrikang, Karangan. And we also have Cynthia Tamraz from Desa Café in Leamington Spa on this call, because she is one of our dear customers who actually buy this coffee from us. I am Katja. I run Kontext Coffee Company. We're based just outside Monmouth in the UK, on the border between England and Wales. And I am really, really, really glad and excited to welcome all of you today for this call. I thought maybe we'd start with a quick round of introductions. So maybe we can start with an introduction from Cynthia and then go that way around, and then start the conversation from the other end and start with Yolan for that.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Cynthia, and I am the end customer of this supply chain. I run a cafe in Leamington Spa in the UK, close to Warwick, Birmingham. And yes, our cafe, we use specialty coffee from Katja, from Kontext. And what I value about Kontext coffee is the sustainability aspect of it, is how calls like this can happen, talking to the farmers, talking to where the coffee is from, and understanding the challenges and the coffee industry is facing right now.
Is it me or you, Katja?
No, I guess I'm next. Yeah, I'm next in the loop. Yeah, as I said, I'm Katja. I run Kontext Coffee Company, and we've been working with this site up since even before I started Kontext, because I have tried in my previous jobs to rope them into our supply chains as well. And yeah, I just love working with them, with you, Maarten and Leonard and the team, because you're a value-based company, and that is what I'm aiming for with Kontext as well. I think more than ever, that's really at the heart of things. If we want to create a fairer world, then we need to act based on values and on ethical behavior. And that's what I find working with you. So I love that. And you always find partners like Adri and Yolan who share those values. So that's great. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. That's a nice introduction of us. So this setup has been around for 11 years. So we call ourselves the good middleman. We are 100% transparent in whatever we do. There are a lot of bad middlemen in coffee, the ones that are very shady, the ones that really pressure farmers, the ones that don't really tell like for how much they bought the coffee at the farm level, and they kind of say like, I paid this, and then they ask more to the roaster. We don't do that. All our purchasing contracts are completely transparent. You can see them. We really believe that proper payment for farmers is the way forward, and together as a value chain we can really solve issues, look each other in the eyes, be transparent, be open about it. And so I am on the importing side, so the company is based in Amsterdam, so we get all the coffees from 14 different countries to Europe, and from the port of Rotterdam we disperse. So our value chain in Indonesia is one of them. Adri is my counterpart on the other side. So he puts it all in the container in Java. So maybe Adri, you can take it from there.
Thank you, Maarten. Hello, everybody. My name is Adri. I'm the founder of Ontosroh Coffee. We have been since 2015. What started was as a small project of helping farmers just to sell coffee by the bags. It turns out to be quite a fruitful journey, mainly through DecideUp. They have been our first and main partner until now. Yeah, we are Ontosroh Coffee based in Yogyakarta, Central Java, in Indonesia. We are working right now with 11 different partners from all around Indonesia: Sumatra, Java, Flores, Papua, and this particular conversation we're having with Yolan from Sulawesi. We take interest in developing coffee as a start of something bigger to something else. So we like to coin our terms like coffee, etc. So from coffee, it's a journey. It's a story of something more. But in the end, the heart of it that we are trying to establish is a sustainable, transparent, and relationship with all the value chain. So, and it cannot be understated the importance of our origin partners like Yolan here. So maybe Yolan, you can introduce yourself also.
Okay. My name is Yolan. I live in Makassar now, but I have a producer from Enrekang and Goa. Enrekang is from the Toraja district, and Goa is the southeast from the South Sulawesi. Maybe Goa you can never seen or never heard Malino, but the Enrekang Karangan is the first I have to work for specialty coffee. Before that, my grandmother have a coffee buyer too, and then my mother going to Jakarta selling coffee from the South Sulawesi, Toraja, and Rekang, and Goa. And 2014, I have the shifting from commercial grade to specialty grade, learning from the literature like YouTube or another. Now I have to work hard work from to surviving for the coffee and Rekang. Because so many issue in Rekang. Before
Okay.
in 2000, I remember in 2012, coffee is more better than now.
All right. Well, do you want to let's jump right in? Thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. Yolan, do you want to tell us a little bit about? You've already said that things have gotten more difficult. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about, especially over the last year or two, what have been the biggest challenges that you've seen in the area, and then also what are the most positive developments that you're seeing that are affecting your business as the coffee buyer from the farming community there?
The problem is maybe it's microclimate, and then the coffee tree is too old, and there is no like fertilizer, good fertilizer. Just one time, or maybe no fertilizer in the 1 year's harvest. So the quantity and the quality is going down, especially karangan too. Yeah.
And do you have any solution, any attempts that you can implement, any practices you can implement to improve the situation?
Just maybe to menanam bibit, kayak penanaman bibit kembali tuh Mas Adri.
Rejuvenation of coffee farms, replanting of seedlings.
Pohon pelindung kayak gitu juga sih, menanam pohon pelindung.
Cover trees, shade trees, ya.
Soalnya cuacanya udah panas banget, sama kayak di kota, udah kayak panas.
The issue especially in Karangan is the relatively high temperature of degrees. So the issue there is it's very hot in Karangan now. It's almost similar to the lowlands in the city lowlands below the mountains.
Sorry, question.
Yes.
Is that because of the pollution, or is it because of just general climate change? Like, is it because of the pollution that is facing Indonesia, or is it have you seen it gradually increasing the temperature?
Kayaknya karena dari general climate-nya aja, Mas.
Okay. General climate change, yeah.
Tapi kalau yang di Goa agak berbeda, yang di Malino itu berbeda dia, karena dia cover forestnya bagus, hutannya bagus. Jadi
karena bawang itu ya.
Iya, kalau yang rekang itu udah berubah jadi kebanyakan sayuran gitu. Jadi hutannya udah mulai habis pohon-pohon besar.
So there's no shade in Goa. There's a lot of shade still from the forest, whereas in Rekang the issue is a lot of the forests have become farmlands for vegetables. So there is less shade to protect the coffee plantations.
Mainly through shallot farming, actually. So,
okay.
Rekang is the fourth largest producer of shallots in Indonesia. So the problem is shallot needs a lot of sunlight to survive. So what happened is to thrive upon the shallot farming, deforested area needs to be cleared. So to provide sunlight. So in a way, even though it's higher in Rekang compared to other places in what Yolan mentioned in Malino, in the southern part of Sulawesi, where the forested area still covers much of the mountains. In Rekang, unfortunately, it's been becoming less and less the forested area.
And these things that you listed, Yolan, that can be done to improve things for the coffee, even though it sounds like the shallots may be working against the coffee in some regards, right? Because they need the sunlight where the coffee needs the shade. But are these things like rejuvenation and trying to plant cover trees for the coffee, are those things that you're already actively implementing in Rekang, or is that something that you are planning for the future?
Yes, it's all already step by step.
Yeah.
Not everyone.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Good. And so then, I mean, next to these challenges that are, obviously caused by climate change on the one hand, but also by the way the land is managed through the shallot farming. Have you seen any positive developments that you've been able to embrace over the last year or two? It give you hope?
Yeah, this year more up to quantity going up before the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I see the farmer as a kayak gairah untuk itu lagi tuh mau tanam mau pupuk lagi fertilizer gitu.
Yeah, there's a passion to reintroduce organic fertilization.
Kan biasanya cuma 1 kali, sekarang udah 3 kali. Jadi agak lebih ada beberapa petani yang udah 3 kali pemupukan, kualitasnya lebih beda gitu dibanding yang 1 kali atau enggak sama sekali dipupuk.
Yeah, usually farmers only fertilize the farms once in a year, but there are few farmers here that they work with Yolan already start to implement 3 times a year, 3 times yearly.
I follow you on Instagram, and I think I saw a video of you kind of giving maybe a workshop on how to make organic fertilizer from coffee cherries, no, from the leftover of the coffee production. Is that right?
Yes.
So you're finding creative ways to help yourselves in the farming community.
Yeah. This is a standard way to organically.
Yeah.
The other ways like government give the urea pupuk like subsidy.
Subsidized chemical conventional fertilizers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a half organic fertilizers.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, maybe if you have a little outlook into the future before we go to Adri, what are you expecting for the future of coffee in Rekang and Goa and the other areas that you serve?
Modalnya sih ini dari pembenahan lahan kayak begitu. Terus kita juga kasih ke petani tentang perawatannya lebih bagus, biar meningkatkan kualitas sama kuantitinya juga, termasuk itu sih. Sama itu yang pengaruh pupuk juga sih, itu paling penting juga. Kalau yang Rekang, kalau yang Goa sih nggak dipupuk, oke, 1 kali aja udah oke.
Yeah, so for him, it's important. The importance is to follow up on much more education to farmers about farm management, especially regenerative, what we call here regenerative agriculture, to improve the soil health and also the farm management to many farmers. And yeah, he said that it needs to be reprocessed, the soil in Rekang.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Adri, do you want to take over and talk a little bit about the challenges that you've been facing over the last year or two, and then also some of the positive developments that you've seen and experienced in your field?
Thank you. So for us as a exporter, we work really tightly with our farmers, especially when we try to promote as much as traceability as possible. We are really engage. We need to really engage with our partners like Yolan from Sulawesi and from Toraja, from Central Java, on first of all planning for harvest, and then number two also about how we can really manage challenges over the course of the year, let's say. Also, and the third one is also how we could answer the question of how we could improve of what we have. So is it through innovation or through innovation in post-processing innovation, or in terms of more education to farmers for the next year's harvest, and so on and so on. But our success depended much upon our farmers. So if they do bad, we also do bad. There is so much we of course has a responsibility to our client like this side up to send the coffee as best as it should. But coffee is really a nature product. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good, it's not great, but human intervention can improve that. And where I think what we are trying to do is to with you, Katia, also to Maarten, also Cynthia and Yolan, is to how we could like reduce the pool of knowledge, so that it becomes more beneficial to mainly to farmers, because they are the most furthest away from the value chain, if I could say that. So over the last 2 years, I think especially in Toraja, in particular Sulawesi, was hit really hard because of too much rain. So in 2020, 21, 22, it was what I called myself is the years of raining dangerously. So it was 2021 and 22 was the wettest, second wettest and third wettest year ever recorded in Indonesia, especially in Sulawesi. So it went up to the normal cycle will be around 1,200 millimeters of rain. Last year in Toraja, it was in Indonesia, it was recorded up to 2,000 millimeters, so 40% above, almost 40% above average normal cycle. So as a result, and as Yolan has mentioned, also it contributes to that is the degree of deforestation that might happen because of other crops. On average, we saw that the production decreased by up to 70% from the normal tomo. Some places was some places even up to 80%. So on average, it's around 50 to 60% in Arabica production, so which is quite quite devastating for farmers. So in turn, we also we have less coffee to work with because of the harvest. And I kept I remember sparingly with Maarten a couple of years. Where's the coffee? Where's the coffee? Where's the coffee? In essence, something like that, because there's not so much or any, yeah.
How
But
did the rains impact quality? I mean, quantity is one thing, that's a big problem in itself. And how did it impact quality?
Quality in general was impacted through, farmers that has really basic processing tools, which I mean facilities, processing facilities. So those who are only relying much on, let's say, sun drying, basic processing on a tarpaulin, for example, like that, it's a big issue because you never know when the rain will come, and when it come, it could last for a couple of days. So therefore, the drying process was hindered and was damaged, damaging the quality of it. So you expectedly to dry coffee for 10 to 12 days. In reality, it took go to 20 to 30 days even. So what you have is coffee that maybe some of it has over fermented. In the worst case scenario, is moldy coffee, which we cannot really do, and we cannot send because it's really a health hazard. So there are many instances like that. So the good thing is that some of our partners like Yolan, for example, has anticipated into a degree this thing. So, for example, in Karangan and in Guamalino, drying facility is quite adequate. You have drying domes with 3 levels of stacks, 6 almost 4 meters high ceiling. So it's really good. But again, management is key, and not all farmers has the time or the resources or the facilities or the manpower to really process it correctly. So it did a little bit.
Those are the challenges, and they are serious challenges that, well, I imagine take a lot of combined effort to do anything about in the long run, right? Any positive developments that you've been able to witness that have affected your business positively as well?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, the drop in volume actually forces farmers or processors to really be creative in terms of their post-processing management. So some of our partners like Yolan actually innovates in processing. So you're looking at many different types of drying, different processes, more honey, naturals. So they are experimenting more and more, and also they have taken more. They have the time to really process it. If they have the coffee, they have time to really sort it well, preparing it well, and the result is more meticulous management to post-harvest processing. And you see in some of our partners, they are doing really well in terms of trying out new things, and also much more looking into the quality aspect of what they can control and what they cannot. And if they can control it, then the result will be great. And for example, I don't know if you know, but Yolan just his farmer partners came away number 4th. Yeah, nomor 4 ya, COA.
Tiga.
Third. So Enrekang actually his other farm in Angin-Angin. So only 10 kilos away from Karangga. His farm in Angin-Angin won the third place in Cup of Excellence, Indonesian Cup of Excellence 2023. So
congratulations.
really good. Yeah, yeah. So he's a big three now in Indonesia. The best, the third best producer in farm Angin-Angin. So yeah, people like Yolan, it's people like Partners Yolan was they're taking up the challenge to step it up in terms of quality, and especially the young processors that we work with eagerly taking up the challenge of stepping up innovation and improvement in quality.
Great. Maybe in one sentence, what's your outlook on the future of coffee in Indonesia?
Cautiously optimistic. Indonesia is very diverse, and I would like to see, and I believe we will see much more innovation coming from Indonesia, much more daring, innovative approach to specialty coffee, whereas whether it's in post-harvest or pre-harvest, but I'm pretty sure we are seeing in the next 5 to 10 years some maybe global grabbing news, in terms of exciting development in terms of Indonesia.
Great, thank you. That's really great to hear. Maarten, you're up next, and I know that you're a bit pressed on time, so just to mention, if and when you do need to jump off, then do feel free. I really appreciate you making the time. Tell us a little bit about your biggest challenges over the last year or two as an importer of specialty coffee, and also what were the most positive developments you were able to see.
Nice, thanks, Katja. I think since we are in the middle of the value chain, we look at the roaster side as much as we look at the farmer side. And maybe not everyone knows, I think everyone in this room knows, but maybe not all of the listeners knows that the coffee prices are at a record high at this moment, and that there's also a record of harvests that are basically failing or are having reduced amounts. So the industry is under pressure. That's one thing, that's statistics. But the thing that I see the most, and that is the most interesting for us to look at, is what it does to people. And it entices a sense of fear, and it entices a sense of urgency, a panicky thing. Like if I look on the roaster or the consumer side, I see like after years of inflation, higher wages, that roasters are looking for cheaper coffee. And on the other hand, we have farmers that are in a world with more climate change and that are losing crops and that actually need more money to run their business. That's a big gap. And it's a bigger gap than we've seen before. Like COVID was a challenge, but the gap was not as big as it is now in the two different realities. So one is a downward pressure on price and the other one is an upward pressure on price. So what it does is it creates a lot of tension on relationships. For as old as they are, and with Adri, we've been working, I think, since day one, like of your business, but with most of the farmers that Adri works with as well. And even in those value chains, you can see like, okay, can we get more money? And it's like, well, yeah, I can give it, but do the roasters or do the cafes or do the hotels, do they give it? So as a value chain, we are a bit in a squeeze, like, okay, are the challenges and the accompanied price raises that come with that, aren't they going a bit too fast? Like, can the market swallow in a sense that we can provide the farmers and the exporters and the millers and everyone with the sufficient means that they need? So that's a dance, and that I find a very big challenge at the moment. Maybe I can bridge to the positives in that. what it does is it forces us to work together. It forces us to talk more openly. It forces us to be more transparent. Forces us to really think outside of the box. We are heavily investing on regenerative agriculture, both in knowledge and in sending out funds for projects. I think in a project with Adri, not in Sulawesi, but on Flores, on another island in Indonesia, we financed some drying domes. So the issue of like raining in the dry season, basically what the moldy situation that Adri said, like, so we had some funds available that we put these kind of drying domes with plastic so that you can dry inside. So at least the quality issue is maintained and that the income is guaranteed. So these kind of things are happy wins, and like, okay, that's good. If I look at a market perspective as a bit of a European perspective, I see more and more demand for transparent and traceable traded coffee. People don't really buy labels anymore. Like they do purchase, but they don't really believe. So proper traceability, proper stories, proper bookkeeping in such value chains is in a higher demand, and that's wind in the sails of us as a value chain like this to keep doing what we do, to keep looking each other in the eyes because the demand is there. We just have to find it in a pace that both the paying and the selling part can keep up. But in general, like, with open knowledge and sharing, and okay, we've had a solution in Brazil, maybe it's applicable for Sulawesi, or we have a solution that was from Sulawesi, maybe we can apply it in India, and vice versa. These kind of cross-cultural, cross-value chain interactions we really try to facilitate. And we really hope that it spins off, and we also have seen the proof that it does spin off. Adri has been in direct touch a lot with our Thai exporters to see how they tackle certain issues, and I'm 100% confident that Adri passes on this knowledge to the farmers that need it and that are willing to listen. So it's a knowledge trickle down, both upward and downward. So yeah.
Great. Lots of hope there as well. And maybe for you as well, in one sentence, going from there, what's your outlook on the future of specialty coffee at origin and in the consuming market in the West here?
Maybe I can reply more for the Indonesian context, how I see it going. It's like we do see an increased demand for Indonesian coffees. Indonesian coffee used to have a stigma. So it used to be like, it tastes like tobacco and it's not so good. That's changing, and that's good. And that's because of the effort of Adri and everyone in Rekang, because they are really working on proper quality year after year after year. So you see an increased demand for that because the stigma is going away. People are like, Indonesian coffee is actually nice. And there are many different Indonesian coffees. So in the specialty segment, it's looking very good for Indonesian coffee. That I'm very positive.
Good. That's really good to hear. I've been trying to tell people for the last few years that we've been buying Indonesian coffee that it is something that everybody needs to try, that it's absolutely underrated and ignored too much because it is such a beautiful flavor profile that can be found in Indonesian coffee. So yes. Great work. Keep it up, guys. All right, I guess I'm next. I'd say the biggest challenge for me as a roaster, but also like on a personal level as someone who loves coffee and has made a business of that love, has been, and not just for the last 2 years, but really from the beginning of Kontext Coffee, but more so now that times are getting challenger, I'd say, is the question of how, like what an ethical way of trading coffee, what that actually means, what that entails, and how to go beyond just the words because as a roaster, I've come to the conclusion that it's really easy to look at a spot list. That's what we call the offer list that coffee importers give out whenever they have new arrivals from the different origins. So you can look at a spot list, pick the coffees that you want, or ask for samples, try them, pick them, and then in buying those coffees from those lists, you can part of the package is a story that comes with the coffee, right? If you're lucky, you even get some nice pictures to go with the story as well. And so you can make all these claims of where this coffee comes from and how green it is and how wonderful it is, without actually really knowing more than the words on those pages. And I found one of the reasons why I started Kontext Coffee was because I wanted to look behind the words and wanted to actually know more about the value chains that I'm involved in, and find a way to make sure that that the equity, the fairness in the way the coffee is traded is real and not just a word on a page. And so, yeah, I think especially because things have gotten more challenging economically and with climate change for many producers in Indonesia, but also in many other origins, things are increasingly more difficult to handle and well, yeah, cause failed harvests. And obviously that's easy to say, but what that actually means for producers, that's something that I think many of us here in the West can't actually imagine, right? If your life depends on your living income depends on this one crop mainly, and you just can't make it work anymore because the weather conditions don't allow for a good harvest to come in, then that has huge impacts on the way you live your life, right? And so just in learning more and more about the value chains that we're involved in as a roastery, yeah, I feel especially in the last year, I've spent a lot of time thinking about what it actually means to us to be involved in ethical trade, and also, and that's been kind of on my mind from the beginning as well, how to communicate this to the end consumer, how to differentiate ourselves from all the other roasteries that also tell stories, but how to actually make it apparent that we're trying to not only tell stories, but to really talk to people throughout the value chain first and ask questions and then tell those stories from a more or less first-hand account rather than reading it off a sheet somewhere. So that's, yeah, I'd say that's been one of the biggest challenges from the beginning of the beginnings of Kontext Coffee, but more so now that times are getting more challenging for everyone in the coffee world, I'd say. The most positive developments I've seen in the last year come from a similar place, I'd say, because I have spent a considerable amount of my working lifetime over the last few years in thinking about which questions I need to ask my suppliers and beyond, and how I can phrase them without being too demanding, without being condescending or too challenging, taking cultural context into account as well. I do feel like we're slowly getting to a point where I'm more certain than ever that the people that we are working with are the right people to work with, because they share the same values and they understand what it's about for us. And that has also meant that over the last years, we've kind of stopped working with some of the suppliers we started out working because maybe we didn't like the answers we got to our questions, or we didn't get any answers to those questions, which is equally unsatisfactory. And so now more than ever, I do feel like we are involved in value chains that are truly transparent, that give us the chance, like this conversation, to actually talk to everyone involved and get first-hand accounts of what's going on the ground, what the biggest challenges are that we're facing as a community. And yeah, just that gives me a tremendous amount of hope that there is a way to do this the right way, and to if we come together within the value chain, we can tackle those issues that are existential for some of us more than for others. Yeah, but in working together, I think there is a way. It's not always apparent, because also every value chain is different in my experience. But yeah, just that human element, that actual relationship has become very crucial in the way I think about how we do what we do. And I think that's also, in one word, the outlook that I have on the future. It's not always easy, because there are many challenges: climate change, the economic situation in the consuming markets. I think that's, I mean, climate change is happening here as well, obviously, but I think for many of us on this end of the value chain, it's more of a nuisance, oh, it's so much rain and there has been flooding again, and yeah, but it's definitely not as existential yet as it is for many producers. But the economic squeeze that we've been experiencing is definitely a challenge. I think for many businesses, especially small businesses in the West, but particularly in the UK at the moment, I would say. So, but yeah, I think if we focus on the right values and make the right decisions, I think and I hope that is something that end consumers appreciate as well, and maybe they are willing to spend that extra money and not buy as much, but put the money in the right place, so to speak. That's my outlook. All right, giving it over to Cynthia. Closing the round.
Yeah, you summed it up really well. For us as the end consumer, it's the economic climate that's been really tough for us, because you've got inflation on supplies, you've got the increase in minimum wage. So your overheads have gone up, electricity bills have gone up, but the problem is we can't transfer the extra overheads onto the end customer completely. So you have to absorb some of the costs, and the profit margins in hospitality, in the cafe industry is not big, considering the taxes that we have to pay as well. It's 20% VAT on coffee, for example. So if you think, a coffee cost £3.50, 20% goes back straight to the government, but the end customer don't think like that. For them, it's a £3.50 cup of coffee. They don't see that, that 20% is going back to the government as value-added tax. We can't as a small business, you can't just say to them, well, we're increasing it by 20%. Otherwise, you're not going to have a business. So you have to stay competitive, and the market is very competitive. Even in a small town like Leamington Spa, we've got so many coffees, we've got so many cafes, independent coffee shops, and then you've got the big chains. You've got the Starbucks, the Nero, the Costa. And I think the biggest challenge is educating people for us, is understanding why specialty coffee may cost more than a cup from Starbucks, for example. And you're not going to win all the customers. You're not going to please everyone, but we find that because our coffee is so good, is so reliably good, that people do come back once they've tried it. People do recognize that specialty coffee tastes so much better than what they're buying. It depends on, obviously, it's also the hardest thing as well is, and this is a positive as well, so it's a negative and a positive. with the economic climate, with less disposable income per household, people are really conscious of what they're buying. Like Katja said, they're thinking more, what are they getting out of it? So if it means better quality, but for a fraction more of the price, they're willing to come to us rather than go to the big chains. The other challenge that we have also is recruitment. With Brexit a couple of years ago, it's really changed the way businesses recruit people. We have a shortage of permanent staff members that come from, say, Europe. Hospitality, a career in hospitality is not seen as a great career in UK. It's almost like a stepping stone. If you're in between jobs, you go into hospitality. Customer service is not a big thing here. So what we find is we will train people, and then 3 months down the line, they'd be like, oh, we found what we're looking for, because it's just a stepping stone. So it's really difficult to find people who are really passionate about what we offer, and also are reliable. So we're wasting a lot of time and effort looking for these people, training them, and then they're leaving us. So there is a lack of continuity there. Having said that, some positive developments, it's forces us to work harder in finding the right people. We're more willing to say, no, you're not a right fit for the business. We've got people who are super passionate about their coffee, and they understand what we're about, that we're not offering, I think I heard Adri say that coffee is just the beginning, right? Coffee, etc. It's for us, the cafe is not just a cafe. It's Desa means village in Indonesian. And what I want to bring is a sense of community. If you come to Cafe Desa, you're not just having a cup of coffee and going. We know a lot of our customers, they've become regular friends, they become regular customers, and they know that we change our coffee from time to time. So Katja will tell me, oh, this is the last batch of the Enrekang coffee. We're moving on to something else. And that is really exciting for people who value the sustainability aspect of the coffee, the seasonability of the coffee. And that's a very, very important part of our business. So it's the such a difficult economic climate has forced us to be more creative and more persistent in finding our unique selling point. And that unique selling point is making sure that we get good quality coffee, but we are also making it correctly. So we're making the most, and we're getting the most flavor out of the specialty coffee that we get. Because what we tend to find is there are a lot of specialty coffees that have really good coffee, but when they're making it, it depends on who's making it, who's behind the bar. It depends on the barista. If that barista is not dialing the coffee in every in the morning or in the afternoon, and there's no point in having specialty coffee. So luckily we've got passionate people in the cafe who are really big on this, who take great care and who take special care in delivering the best cup of coffee every time. So yeah, that's where we are.
And do you have a final kind of thought on what you're expecting to see in the future? And maybe because it is, I do feel it's special for this particular conversation, a special coincidence that you are in the UK, our end customer.
Yeah,
we're also Indonesian. So how does coffee in Indonesia impact you?
Yeah, so I've got, because I'm from Jakarta, and I went back last year, and it's so nice to see that in Jakarta you have a lot of independent coffee shops now, like First Crack, and it's like, like everyone is going to the Indonesian coffee shops. They're not going to the Starbucks or the Coffee Bean. They're now appreciating that the coffee is grown in your own country. And that had never been the case growing up. Growing up, we drink coffee, you know all the big names, Kapal Api, Torabika. That's it. That's what Indonesia produce. We don't appreciate specialty coffee from Indonesia. But now I feel that, just seeing it in Jakarta, it's incredible how many independent coffee shops are opening everywhere. So it's really exciting. As an Indonesian, going back to Indonesia is a very, very exciting time. So that's Indonesia. Here in the UK, I think there are a lot of education being done around coffee, and I think people are appreciating it more. Especially we see it from the customers coming in and having the conversation and them asking more about the coffee, where it's come from, and the flavor profiles. I think having cupping sessions with you, Katja, have definitely helped, because it opens people's eyes more to not just drinking coffee as a flat white or a latte, but there's more to it. It's more appreciated, I think, and like I said, because people are more conscious of what they're spending, they're more willing to spend on little things that bring joy to their lives. They may not be spending money on big purchases, but people who love coffee are not willing to give up their daily cup of coffee. So I think it's a positive.
Great, thank you. Happy faces. Well, I think that was, I'm leaving this conversation on a hopeful note. I think as an industry, we are facing many challenges, and they are very different from one end of the value chain to the other. And I, for one, have come to the conclusion that it is really important to make that transparent as well, to bring us closer together and to open our eyes mutually for the challenges that everybody else is facing, to have more understanding and also maybe buy with compassion, and not in a condescending way, but like with just keeping an eye on each other and making sure we can choose consciously, and that's part of ethical behavior in trade, in my opinion. So this conversation has given me lots of hope, a deeper understanding of this value chain again. But I'm also definitely looking into the future a bit more hopefully than I have an hour ago. Thank you guys so much for taking the time. And I hope to see each one of you soon, and hopefully meet. I've met you, Adri, this last summer in Copenhagen, and maybe one day I'll make my way to Indonesia and get to meet you, Yolan, as well, which would be amazing. Thank you for sharing this call with me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for organizing this. It's been great.
All right. See you soon.
See you in Indonesia.
Bye.
Bye.